And then the Commonwealth Government said, we want to do a campaign to reach all Australians. We've been doing stuff with gay men, with drug users, with sex workers. So now we're going to do a campaign to reach all Australians and make them aware of HIV. At that time, they mostly called it AIDS. And we were not involved. None of the gay community people were involved in that campaign. It was the Health Department, Ita Buttrose, head of the National Committee on AIDS, engaged an ad agency, and what they came up with was the Grim Reaper campaign.
At first, only gays and IV drug users were being killed by AIDS. But now we know every one of us could be devastated by it.
We were appalled because as soon as we saw that ad, we thought this is going to raise stigma against people with HIV. You want to bowl them out, get rid of everyone. The federal government to this day takes credit for what a fantastic campaign we made. All Australians stand up and take notice. And then they responded to a criticism of the TV ad was that apart from saying always use condoms, always, they didn't really tell people much that they needed to know. For example, if you're gay, you need to use lubricants with the condoms. For example, oral sex at the time we considered was safe, but they weren't going to say that. But they put out a leaflet. They responded to the criticism. TV ad doesn't have everything. They put out a leaflet and it was called something like 10 questions, 9 answers. And the last question was, what should we do? And there wasn't an answer. It might have been, when will there be a cure for AIDS? And we don't know. Anyway, we looked at this leaflet, 10 questions, 9 answers, and it didn't actually answer the things people needed to know. So I'll acknowledge in this interview it was the AIDS Council of New South Wales came up with a set of questions and answers called Safe Sex and AIDS. We then, with their permission, took the same text but produced what we thought was a better design, very simply laid out leaflet called Safe Sex and AIDS, the Answers, that did talk about safe sex, did talk about condoms, did talk about oral sex. And we, again, like we had the problem with the campaign for gay men, we had to work out how do we get this to ordinary people. And at the time, Graham Stevens was involved in a campaign where trade unions in Victoria had paid for one panel of the side of milk cartons. And they said, yes, you can use this. So we had on the side of milk cartons, Safe Sex and AIDS, the Answers, ring this number. And we thought, fantastic, this will reach most Victorians over breakfast and dial this number. Well, and at the foot of that, I think it had just Victorian AIDS Council. Well, when they contacted the AIDS Council, they were sent the leaflet with a letter, of course, asking, can you donate money? But the leaflet at the bottom said Victorian AIDS Council / Gay Men's Health Centre. And of course, that then started the letters to the newspapers and the calls to Talkback Radio that the AIDS Council's just recruiting people, it's a front for the gay community. And so again, we had all sorts of controversy, but we survived because it achieved our purpose. It got people to understand this information.